and gentlemen, and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's continued coverage of Season 65 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Barebones Racing Series as we get ready for our first elimination race of the playoffs, and it takes place at a historic racetrack, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, more lovingly known as the Brickyard. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Sean Prime, and Sean, we talk about a whole bunch of different things during the course of the season. We'll talk about the importance of fuel. We'll talk about the importance of tires. But I think here tonight, especially based off of what I saw in practice, give me that clean air.
Oh, absolutely. And good evening, Seth. Hope you are doing well. Congrats on your win at the Brickyard last night in your series, sir. Heard all about that. Yep, tonight, clean air and big track, long track, but hard to make passes here by yourself. The draft is so prevalent at this track. You can use it on the inside, use it on the outside, but either way, if you're going to go someplace tonight, you're going to have to use it.
With the difficulty of passing, obviously a huge emphasis on qualifying. A number of drivers able to put down some solid lap times. I believe we actually had a driver set the fastest lap time historically in terms of a pole sitter here just moments ago. But also pit road can play a big factor into gaining track position. How much do we see that come into play this evening?
A place you don't want to speed. Another one of those long pit roads. It looks like a pretty straight entry to pit road here at Indy, but it can be treacherous because you've got the wall on both sides. Trust me, I lost a race here, or got taken out of a race here by the wall on the inside here, not the attenuator. So, yep, lots of things to be gained, and it's a great place to make your passes, make them on pit road, play strategy as opposed to doing it on the track.
So with all the different ways that this race can be won or lost, how much of a sigh of relief are you breathing if you're Grant Wesley coming into tonight? You were able to take the first race of the playoffs last week at the Monster Mile of Dover. You come into tonight knowing, regardless of what happens this evening, whether you go back to victory lane for a second week in a row or you finish back in the garage area, you're moving on to the next round of the playoffs.
Oh, he picked a great time to pick up his first win of the season. A big win it was back at Dover. And, yep, cutoff race tonight, so we're only going to take 8 for the playoffs from this point forward. And our 8th place finisher, I don't believe, is in the field tonight, so it's going to be wide open.
Going to have that eighth and stands cut line moving around quite a bit. To your point, yeah, it does not look like we have Bob LaChance in the field here this evening. I believe we're going to have a total of 29 drivers that'll be taking the green flag in this one. Check that, 28 drivers that are going to take the green flag here tonight. And even despite the fact we don't have that eighth in the standings driver in the field, we're going to be talking a lot about that cut line, and there's a couple of drivers that are looking pretty good to maybe point their way in, but you've also got 29 points separating 4th through 12th in the overall playoff standings, so a lot of movement can take place either above or below that cut line at the conclusion of this one. But last week, as mentioned, it was the Monster Mile, Dover Motor Speedway that pretty much set the tone here for the playoffs. We saw Grant Wesley go to victory lane, and we'll now turn it over to Sean here for a little bit more of a recap of what took place at the Concrete Mile racetrack last week.
Yep, it's a lot of things we see typically at Dover. Tale of two races, long green flag runs, green flag pit stops, then total chaos trying to get restarted with cautions, breeding cautions. At the end of the day, Grant Wesley brought it home, P1 as we discussed. Jim Glad with another solid run was in P2, and Colin Flick finished out the podium and as well as bringing out the Challenger win. Fastest lap of the race, again, Jim Gloud and Bob LaChance, almost identical fastest laps for the race. We had 14 lead changes amongst 7 drivers. Most laps led went to Jeremy Jeffries, but it was pretty even. He had 32, Brian Schilling had 29, and Jeff Soup had 25. So there, a lot of swapping around going on there. Highest climber of the night, again, Mr. Bob LaChance, not in the field tonight, but he again started 28th, brought it home 8th. Tough to do at Dover, and he had a great run. And our hard luck finisher was Mr. Dennis McCarthy. Started 5th, finished 23rd for a negative 18. I think we did recall last week we saw some interesting pitch strategies with all the cautions coming out. Our leader of the race, Grant Wesley, how many pit stops do you think he made, Seth?
In that one, was it something like 3, I think, right?
Right on the nose. Good job. 3 pit stops across those 120 laps. Now, Jeff Supta found himself some trouble or caught up in something early on and was playing strategy at the back. He gave his pit crew a workout, and I think he's still trying to pay off that tire bill. He came down the pit road 10 times. So he was definitely putting on the tires and most calories burned by his pit crew last week. And that about closes the book on Dover. But think of Dover a little bit when you come here. We know chaos can break out quickly at Dover. Here in these short shoots, if you have an incident coming out of either turns 1 or turn 3, it's rarely ever a single car incident if the field's bunched up. So we could see chaos here, which could also equate to big swings in the points standings.
Not even those short shoots as well. I mean, even looking here at this lengthy front straightaway, much like the front straightaway at Dover, you've got that pit wall that separates pit lane from the racetrack, and it doesn't take much. A little bit of contact at the front of the field, and this front straightaway will become blockaded, and drivers mid-pack rear of the field are going to have 2 choices. Either hope that they can find a lane to get through and that it remains open by the time they reach the scene of the accident, or just get on the brakes, whoa up, and wait for everything to happen in front of them. It doesn't take, looks pretty spacious right here from the angle we're looking at, but it can close up in a hurry, especially if contact's made off of 4 up at the front of the field.
I know, such a big track, but you got to think small track racing in your minds, except for the fact that you need to use that draft. And we can have caution-free races. Matter of fact, season 56, 2 races ago, 0 cautions for 0 laps. Last season here, 2 cautions for 6 laps, including a 51-lap green flag run to the finish, after which the margin of victory of the race was 77 1/1000ths of a second.
Woohoo! Could we be in for a finish like that here tonight in a playoff race? Very well could be. 70 laps, halfway point. Those valuable stage points get paid out at the conclusion of lap 35, and coming into tonight, the best lap set for a pole sitter was a 51.514. Jeff Supta with a 5:08 gets the pole position here tonight. He's now the record holder with fastest lap turned here in qualifying at Indy, and he'll have Nick Gunther alongside of him, so an all-playoff contender front row. Ron Hagelin, we mentioned the fact that Bob LaChance is not in the field here tonight. Hagelin came into this race 9th in points, 5 points out, so we could, in effect, unofficially label him as the 8th driver in points, the cut line driver here, with his good qualifying effort in row 2 alongside of Doug Cady, a former Challenger winner this season. Josh Metallic and Jeremy Jeffries, a couple of playoff contenders, going to make up row number 3. You mentioned Jim Glaude had that great run last week, runner-up finish at Dover. He'll share row number 4 with the guy that he finished second to, last week's winner, Grant Wesley. Tim Nofsker and Rodney Sullins, they're going to make up row number 5, completing the top 10. Christian Torres makes his first start on the season in the 42, alongside of Dave Robbins in row 6. Glenn Harris joins Dave Melson back in row 7. Row 8 going to find Richard Martin and Dennis McCarthy. Row 9 with Greg Palmer and our Challenger points leader Colin Flick. And then Denny Carroll and Terry Bombard going to complete the top 20. Row 11 finds Frank Rivard and Bobby Farrell. Last driver to take time will start 23rd in Cy Jones. The rest of these drivers did not lay down a qualifying lap, as John Godfrey will be on the outside of row 12. Brian Ross and Brian Schilling and all Brian row 13, with Billy Elliser and Randy Waugh making up the 29-car field here this evening.
I tell you, the pace car is off. We're getting ready to get this thing going. Jeff Supta's going to lead us to the lead. He's our defending champion here, also from the season 62. That margin of 77 1/1000ths was Mr. Jeff Supta, and he takes us to the green flag.
Let's see how long it takes for these drivers to maybe get single-filed out here. As you said, go into that short track mentality at a racetrack 2.5 miles in length. Very easy to see the walls here at this racetrack, bright yellow, and a lot of bright yellow featured on that number 11 Chevrolet, who will lead them down the back straightaway. Hagelin moves to second, so Gunther will drop a spot back and tuck into third.
We can see 3 wide heading into turn 3 possibly in the back here. They get it stretched out 2 wide. Cyber Jones on the inside. Josh Metallic there looking to make a move right behind Nick Gunther. And there's Cyber's got it back in line. Jeremy Jeffries right behind Cyber.
Especially through the short shoot there. Got to keep an eye on these double wide formations because that car on the outside line, when you're in somebody's draft cart, gets super, super tight. And there's not a whole lot of wiggle room of you potentially drifting up and brushing the outside wall.
And I had the wrong special Sunoco paint job there. That is actually the 007 of Mr. Doug Cady there between Josh Metallic and Jeremy Jeffries. Doug having himself a nice start tonight. Jim Glaude tucking in there behind Jeremy. Had another great finish last week.
Doug Cady was the first winner of the Barebones Challenger Series here this season when he took home the victory at Kansas. Looking for his second Challenger win on the season. Currently in the 5th spot. You're seeing a lot of drivers right there. Almost a combination of loose and tight. It almost seems like maybe tight off the corner, and then when you're sawing on that wheel to make sure you don't hit the wall, back end's coming around a little bit.
I tell you, we talked earlier about the draft, Seth, and I'm looking, I see the entire field right now is single file, and I'm sure as soon as I say that, somebody's going to go wide, and it looks like Doug is going to go wide in turn 1 and go right back in, which is a perfectly good way to get around through there, by the way. You could pass on the inside or the outside here. What you do need is help. I actually prefer sometimes using the outside on the short shoot and being on the outside the longer way around going into 2 and 4, because that's where the draft's going to set up on. If you can stay even with that person on the inside and hang there, the draft's going to usually come your way on the long straightaway.
Yeah, it's
As
interesting.
we see Jim Glaude to the outside of Jeremy here.
Yeah, just what I was going to say. It was interesting you brought that up because I've had the pleasure of running with you guys here on Monday nights in this series at this racetrack, and I remember a lot of times drivers actually would avoid the inside because if you could get to somebody's right rear quarter panel, usually everybody on the back straight and the front straight would run right up against the wall, so you were almost guaranteed to have a line of cars giving you that straight line speed you needed with the draft to be able to pass whoever you were able to get to the outside of. It'll be interesting to see if more drivers actually will try doing that move. Glaude not able to complete the pass, but he made an attempt there. We'll see if more and more drivers will actually try jumping to the right rear quarter panel of the driver in front of them. The only question I would have in that type of a move, are you risking wearing that right front tire more running up off the bottom of the racetrack?
That's an excellent point because you do have to give it that little extra boost on entry to try to get to that right rear corner of the person in front of you. So it's all risk versus reward, and you play and use, and you're going to pay down the end of the run. And now we see some guys looking to the inside, but up front it's still Jeff Supta, Ron Hagel, and they may be just feeling everything out, remembering how this line goes. This track does lend itself to having some issues, so when they happen, as we said, they're not usually small ones.
So as we mentioned, this is a cutoff race, an elimination race. So who are some of the drivers that we're keeping an eye on that are trying to get themselves from below the cut line coming into above the cut line leaving, heading into the round of 8? We already documented Ron Hagelin. He was 5 points below the cut line coming into this evening. Josh Metallic, who's just ahead of that pass for the 5th position, with Jeremy Jeffries getting by Doug Cady. He comes into this race 10th in points. He was 9 points below the cut line. Denny Carroll, who right now scoring has him back in the 26th position of 28 drivers currently running. He came into this one 11th. He was a total of 18 points below the cut line, and Ronald Lucey is currently the lowest driver of the playoff contenders, 12th in the standings coming into tonight. He is 21 points below the cut line. Right now, 62 being scored.
Not in the field tonight,
Not in the field,
unfortunately.
never mind. So that we already know is going to be one of our official eliminated drivers at the conclusion of this Indy race.
Right now, it looks like Josh Metallic is in the catbird seat because he's sitting there running in the 4th position, although he's under fire as we speak. Jeremy Jeffries right up to the back bumper of the 39 machine. Get that big draft going down the front straightaway to the yard of bricks, and they're going to look to the inside to make a move on Nick Gunther.
Obviously some motivation being below the cut line if you're Josh Metallic, but how about a little bit more fuel to the fire? Home track for him here, based out of around the Indianapolis area. Considers this a home track for him, and everybody wants to be able to say that they were able to pick up a checkered flag at a track that was in their backyard.
And Josh Metallic did just that. He is our season 60 winner here.
Grant Wesley, Tim Nosker there, Rodney Sullins all on the bottom of the racetrack down the back straightaway, trying to keep Grant alongside of Jim Glaude, rekindling that battle from 1 week ago.
You won't see guys playing too many favorites here. It'll be fresh meat. If one person gets pinned to the outside or inside, you'll see everybody trying to line up and gain a spot at that person's peril.
Something must have happened to Ron Hagelin, because not only is he lost a spot to Nick Gunther, he's now going to drift back to the 5th position. Metallic and Jeffries are going to go by him, so either he had to really lift out of the throttle there in the draft of Supta, may have brushed the wall back there, maybe out of turn 4.
Speaking of the brush on the wall, it looked like Dave Robbins just caught it coming out of turn 2 there, and Josh Metallic now again to the inside of Nick Gunther. Jeremy Jeffries is going to push again, and then he pulls back to the outside, takes the wider entry, but this time the pass may be completed, and looks like Jeremy's going to try to follow him through.
Tire wear will certainly be a concern, but more so tire heat built up specifically in that right front tire here for these exits off of the corner. We'll see probably more and more drivers going up there, getting a little yellow paint on the right side of their machines as they drift up off of the short chute corners and these corners onto the long straightaways. And I guarantee you that tight sensation with the buildup in the right front being in the dirty air of the car in front of you, it will only continue to get worse. It will never get better.
It's not a problem that's going to cure itself, that's for sure. And that was maybe what we saw with Ron Hagelin dropping back. He seems to have settled in now behind Nick Gunther, and you get that right front hot. You know, guys ask you, well, what steering ratio are you going to run here, and whatever stock comes from the setup. But you know as well that it's not just a product of the steering ratio, how much scuffing you put on your tires. It's a bigger issue of degrees of rotation of your overall setup as to how much input into your wheel equals how much reaction and how much friction on your front tires.
Well, there was a lot of input and friction right there through the short chute of 3 and 4. Christian Torres got up into the wall, came down, maybe a little contact with Jim Glaude, who had to spend that entire short chute saving that race car. You see the momentum it's lost him, as now he'll lose 2, maybe 3 positions there, as Demar is going to pass him to the outside. Tuck's back in line now. He was 12th position when he crossed the line last time by. He'll come around this time, I believe, in the 14th position.
Yep, and as we see, looks like Doug Cady to the inside of Grant Wesley.
That would be, I believe, for the 6th position. Nope, correction. No, it is for the 6th position. Grant actually passed Cady for the spot. Cady trying to pass him back. Not able to get that power down through the center of the corner. You can see the gap that Grant was able to open up. He actually brushed the wall a little bit there off of 4, did last week's winner.
Yep, he used the outside to make the pass there. That's what got me confused. Looked like Tim Nosker maybe looking to do the same thing and pass Doug on the entry as we have a battle for the lead. Josh Metallic to the inside of Jeff Supta.
These two have been quite the duo here, been working their way up through the top 5. They got to 3rd together, they got to 2nd together, and now trying to go to the race lead. Metallic now loses Jeremy Jeffries, who'll stay to the outside line there, and all of a sudden Metallic goes from battling for the lead. He's going to drift maybe outside of the top 5 here as Hagelin goes around. Here comes Wesley to the outside.
Yep, you'll have no friends. Like I said, do not discriminate. If it's one person hung out, everybody takes. So there's a spot to gain, and that's Indianapolis racing.
That's got to be so frustrating, because you said it's hard to pass here. You didn't say it was hard to get past.
No, it's not hard to get past. You get past in bunches. You make single car passes, but then you get passed back by bunches. I guess what we talk about now is we're on lap 12. You know, we're back on 2X tonight, much to these guys and Jeff Supta's pit crew's relief. But we are lap 19, really lap 20 is our window tonight. So we're a little bit past halfway through a fuel run. So tire wear and heat, as you said, is a factor.
Now this racetrack, not necessarily up there at the top of the list in terms of difficult pit roads to get onto. Maybe the biggest problem is a lot of times you'll see a bunch of drivers all come together. And as we mentioned, there's this attenuator wall here on the front straightaway. You're going to see it right here, that bright yellow wall on the inside there to separate what's going on the racing surface to what's happening on a rather narrow pit lane. And where that wall begins, it really narrows up. Unlike a Daytona or a Talladega, where you've got a lot of space to be able to work with, maybe 3-4 lanes on the entry to pit road, it narrows down to almost 2 lanes when you get to where that wall begins, and that can be very difficult when you've got a number of drivers coming down pit road, different braking zones, maybe alongside each other once they get to that point.
Almost like a funnel, but not a friendly funnel. Looks like we got about a 6-car breakaway now. These guys have lined up in the draft and put a little bit of a gap between 7th place.
Look at that. You saw even the race leader, Jeff Supta, go up there and brush the outside wall. He's got the clean air on the nose, and he's even having difficulty turning through the center of the corner.
And that's may generate a run here. Nick Gunther going to take a look for second place. See if he gets some help going in the short shoot here.
Nick Gunther with 2 wins on the season, looking low on Jeremy Jeffries, who will swing back around the outside. 4 wins on the season for Jeffries. Jeffries coming into this race 3rd in the standings, Gunther 4th, both with a bit of a cushion back to that cut line. Not enough for them to be absolutely safe and locked into the next round, but if they continue to run up here inside of the top 5, they should be relatively safe to move on to the round of 8.
And we'll see that kind of action like we just saw with Nick Gunther a lot tonight. You generate great runs here, and here goes Nick making another move on Jeremy, as I mentioned it. And sometimes you don't want to check out of it. You just move to the outside or inside and keep going, but you know you're probably going to fall back in line if that driver makes a good entry into the coming turn.
We mentioned about the fact no Bob LaChance in the field here tonight, so this could be the interesting battle, at least here at the front in the early going. Hagelin versus Metallic, because those drivers were 9th and 10th coming into this race, 4 points separation. And we talk about the importance of stage points. Josh Metallic has been one of the most efficient, along with Grant Wesley, of drivers that have gotten those stage points here during the regular season. I believe the caution is out here for the first time tonight.
See the field slowing down, getting ready to pick up the pace car. I do not see any action on the track. They were getting racy towards the second, latter third of the field.
Yeah, there's smoke up there. It looks like that was going into turn 1. Who it involved, I'm not sure. Cy Jones is back here, Billy Ellis. It doesn't look like anybody really lost touch with the field. So I'm wondering if maybe somebody half spun and maybe the wall saved them or something. We'll take a look.
I see that smoke that you see in turn 1, but I have yet to see a car.
Looks like some damage on Bobby Farrell. Nope, he's not the reason for it. Oh, Dave Robbins.
Dave Robbins on 96.
And he's going to get a little bit of help. That's Richard Martin there going into the corner.
That could have been a much larger incident. It looked like Jim Glaude just got by. Oh, it looks like more carnage going on here.
It's Dave Melson, one of our playoff drivers, came into this one 7th in points. He was 2 points ahead of the cut line with Bob LaChance as the 8th place driver. See Greg Palmer kind of woeing up. I wonder if maybe he got into the 38 as they were making their way through and was giving him the spot back.
Let's see.
Yeah, just drivers checking up. Oh, man, Jim Glaude,
Jim.
nowhere to go.
After just avoiding the other one, you got to get that one.
Another playoff driver, and Brian Schilling was back behind
here.
this. See the contact bottom of your screen.
Just gets by and looked like the 21 was going there with him.
Talk about the gray area all the time at the 1.5 mile racetracks, and this is a racetrack where there's a lot of gray area as well. Depending on where you are, getting prepared for the entry of the corner can really play a factor into whether or not there might be some contact made with drivers fighting for the same piece of real estate. In that case right there, you've got the 96 who's going to try and take that arc from the outside down to the inside line. You've got the 43 who's got that shallow entry in there, so he's going to have maybe about a half groove of push-up, and unfortunately we just see that one maybe slight piece of asphalt. Both cars want it, and then the right front makes contact with the left rear, and it's on from there.
Exactly. You're moving down, and there's probably a millisecond for your spotter to say car inside as you're already there. Looks like pretty standard fare on pit road for the leaders.
Strong pit stop there for the 11 team, way out in front of the rest of the competition. Of course, they got that #1 pit stall as well. How important is that going to be here tonight, especially, well, either on green or yellow flag pit stops, to be able to get that launch? You don't have all that far to go to the commitment line. You probably can get to that commitment line before you hit the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit.
I believe you're right. Yeah, under caution, it's a huge thing to have that #1 pit stall here.
So Supta wins the battle off of pit road. Gunther comes out second, Metallic third. Then Jeremy Jeffries, Grant Wesley going to be the top 5. Number of spots picked up there by Rodney Sullins on pit road. He's going to restart, it looks like, in 6th. As these 3 drivers that stayed out, we'll probably see them come to pit road this time. Richard Martin, Brian Rawson, and Cy Jones turning the race lead back over here to Jeff Supta. Interesting the time of this yellow and when we'll be probably going back green. It'd be pretty close to around the time when they would have had to make a green flag pit stop if we had been green from the start.
That is correct. As we said, you could probably get 20. 19 is definitely, and 20 is probable. So we want to get somewhere, we're inside and out of the window already. Lap 15 would have got us to the halfway bonus points. So should we have another long green flag run, they will not have to come back to pit road before we go awarding these stage points tonight.
As our scoring updates here, so for the playoff contenders right now, inside of the top 10, you've got Supta, Gunther, Metallic, Jeffries, Wesley. Get your top 5. And I believe they are the only one of the playoff drivers inside of the top 10. You got to go back to 11th before you find Ron Hagelin. Ryan Schilling is in 13th.
Standard Schilling progression through the field.
Yep. Started this race from out back in 26th. Colin Flick is back in 14th place. Double checking here. I believe next highest driver would actually be... trying to find him. There he is, the 41, Denny Carroll, in 18th place. And I believe I might have missed somebody, but I'm not sure. No, I think I got everybody there. Yep. So, right now only 5 drivers in line for those valuable stage points. Ron Hagelin just outside. Actually, no, now it looks like Ron's actually been scored up to the 10th spot, so he would be in line for a stage point should he finish there.
All right, lights are out. We're getting to see. There's going to be plenty of movement to go on here. We'll have about 16 laps here to halfway when they take the green flag.
Supta has led 16 of the completed 17 laps. Richard Martin, the only other driver to lead a lap. That was just moments ago. He'll be the control car, Will Supta. Good launch on both lanes here. Maybe a little bit better on that outside line. We'll see if the shorter way around the racetrack here through 1 will give Supta the advantage he needs for the back straightaway.
Better on the outside line than my math was. It's actually 17 laps to halfway from here. So still side by side through the first 6. Oh, somebody's hard into the wall.
That's
and
Dave
spinning to the inside.
Robbins. Frank Rivard. Caution's going to come out.
Flick may be involved
frozen
as well.
Gunther was ahead the time that yellow flew. Wow, there's a lot of drivers down in the grass here on the back straightaway.
And that's the wider of the 2 straightaways
True.
here. They still managed to collect a whole bunch.
A lot of damage I saw there on the Hooters Chevrolet of Greg Palmer. Saw Bobby Farrell. There's Gloud, Robbins, McCarthy, Jones. You mentioned Colin Flick. Some pretty good damage on the right side of that machine. Billy Elliser. There's the 22. Hood crunched up there. Pretty good damage on both sides of that race car.
That Al's going to need some work. I don't expect we're going to see the leaders take on pit road because track position is so important with it. We're in, within range of halfway. It was less than 1 lap under green.
Frank Rivard's rear end has been shortened up. This happened actually ahead of him. Might be the 8 of Glenn Harris. Might have gotten loose here. Let's take a look with the Krispy Kreme Chevrolet. Yeah, gets loose, gets down the apron, back up the track, nowhere for Colin Flick to go, and then he gets spun off of the nose of Frank Rivard, and oh
it's
my
on from
gosh!
There.
Did you see
wow.
the 22?
That Al's got more problems. Oh boy.
That just took off.
It's like a lot of energy built up there, and he was the resulting launch.
Go back, focus. Look at the velocity of which he shoots into the inside wall right there. It was a hit from Bobby Farrell. Hit him square in the back bumper, and that just shot him straight into that inside wall.
With two wheels up off the ground. There's almost a little bit of a ricochet or warp action I saw in there that
Yeah.
just propelled that. I think the 7 John Godfrey up there was caught too.
Take a look at this from the chopper cam. To what you said, a lot of pinballing going on there with some warp. Is 35-21.
The 35 had a little warp,
Yep.
which may have helped propel somebody. But,
92 into the 024. That propelled them into the 22 car. And ironically, out of all that, the driver that got out of shape at the start of that thing, Glenn Harris, he got away relatively unscathed, made his way through the wreck.
I don't know if anybody behind there made it through. It looked like pretty much everybody got caught up at one point.
See if we can get on board with the Krispy Kreme Chevrolet and just listen to this. I mean, that's one thing that we haven't talked about here that obviously I guess is a thing, is cold tires on these restarts here. The car gets a little squirrely in these first couple of corners.
You get down near those rumble strips in that grass, and yep, and it's a little bit of an apron, a transition, and just enough to upset the car. You see it here. Comes back up on the little transition there and just unloads, and then traffic. Oh boy. And just drive through.
Yep. Wait till the smoke clears. Find the paths and get on through. So that makes things interesting in terms of for restarts. I mean, Glenn was on the inside line there. Obviously the shorter way around the racetrack, but you're probably putting a lot more wheel into the race car as well to get it to turn specifically off the corners. So that'll be something to keep an eye on for drivers that restart on the inside line here for restarts late in this race, in terms of will those tires have the grip they need.
Well, we're getting ready to find out because the lights are already out again. Pace car is about to turn onto pit road. There he goes.
Had a number of drivers on pit road, but they were really down there to repair crash damage. All the leaders stayed out here, having turned only about maybe half to 3/4 of a green flag lap on these Goodyears. Green flag back in the air. Gunther, who was half a car length out in front when that last caution flew, the control car here. And he'll clear, it looks like, Supta by the time they get to the short chute off the exit of 1. Now moves down to cover the bottom, and Jeremy Jeffries keeping him stacked up for that second position as Jeremy gets really tight off that corner, almost up into the driver's side door of Josh Metallic.
Oh, so tough as Jeff Supta comes to take a peek at the inside. He got a great push on the start from Josh Metallic, and he is going to look to the inside going into 3.
He is there. Can he get the power down here? Out of 3, stays to the left rear quarter panel. Now he needs the drafting help. If he can stay alongside off of 4, pick up a toe down the front straightaway, he might be able to get Gunther cleared, but everybody migrates back up there to the wall.
Outside definitely has the numbers here and pushing hard, and that's Christian Torres, I think, pushing behind Grant Wesley.
It is indeed. That Ty Dillon throwback, number 42.
See if you can channel some Ty Dillon Cinderella luck, although I would not consider Christian the Cinderella by any chance. He's always comes to compete. Jeremy Jeffries is the odd man out right now, looking to lose some more spots.
Christian Torres in the field made me forget that there actually was a team called Petty GMS Motorsports. I'd forgotten that Gallagher Motorsports had merged with Petty at that time.
Heard a recent rumor that GMS was coming back in some form.
Too.
I don't know if it's in... Yep.
Fielding a truck, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, maybe Spencer Gallagher is going to lead that effort. I don't know if Maury's still at it, but here we go again. Looks like, are we going to go 2x2 going into turn 1? Yes, we are.
Josh Metallic, he has been able to really make the move work there on the inside line on these straightaways, and he's had somebody to help push him. Before it was Jeremy Jeffries, this time it was Rodney Sullins. Metallic, first time tonight out in front here at Indy. Gunther moves back into second. Rodney there in third. Rodney was in the conversation of making the playoffs here this season, but we didn't see him in the regular season finale when he came in the cut line driver, so he's a non-playoff contender here this season. Doesn't mean that all these drivers that don't have the championship hanging in the balance don't want to win this race. Keep an eye on him. You mentioned Christian Torres up here. You've got Doug Cady and Tim Nofsker back there in the latter half of the top 10. Doesn't mean that they don't want a checkered flag here at Indy just as much as the playoff drivers.
Rodney Sellens fell just short here in season 60. P2 to Josh Metallic.
Less than 10 laps away from that halfway point where those valuable stage points are going to get handed out. A driver like Josh Metallic, who came into this race below the 8th in the standings cut line, could really capitalize on 10 points here this evening. Give him a little bit of breathing space to that cut line, would more than likely put him up above 8th in the standings. Of course, as we mentioned, he's kind of battling Ron Hagelin right now for that final position in the playoffs, and Ron is currently back in the 8th position.
Well, we know Josh knows how to win here. We know he's a master here at his home track, and he's great at getting off of 2 and 4 with a little bit of a gap. And that's the key to everything if you're leading, because it minimizes the time on that long straightaway that they can get the run and get alongside you, because you're almost a sit and duck half the time when you're leading. If 2 or 3 people behind you just say, we're going to move to the opposite side, they could probably try to draft past you. But the defeater of that is getting that great run off of 2 and off of 4.
How about Denny Carroll? Started this race from 19th. We saw him as far back as 26th in the early going of this race, and he and Terry Bombard have been making a couple of passes together, tandeming together. He's now worked his way up to the 11th position. A driver that comes into this race not necessarily in must-win territory, but with Metallic and Hagelin up ahead of him, he definitely needs to get himself up there into the top 5, at least into the conversation with those other drivers.
Big action up front as Rodney Sellens made a move and temporarily took over second, but Nick Gunther was able to hold tight on the outside and regain the position, as they're not done yet swapping these positions here.
Leaves them stacked up side by side for 4th. Torres to the outside of Supta. Got Jeremy Jeffries, Grant Wesley behind them. They're side by side for 6th. Looks like Supta will complete the pass on Torres. Still the contest here for 6th place, as looks like Jeremy's going to tuck in line behind Grant Wesley. You talk about the relief for Grant coming into tonight, knowing he's locked into the next round, but what about the confidence as well? You can go out there, you can be aggressive here tonight and try and see if you can start off the playoffs with back-to-back wins.
Oh, it'd be great. Pick up a couple more bonus points going into the next round. But I tell you, these guys are up on it now. They're thinking, 7 laps to go now to halfway, and every point matters, every position matters, so everybody but Grant Wesley and maybe Christian Torres, is only here to win, are really thinking about position right now. So you want to make a move, but again, you don't want to make a move and have no friends and lose 6 spots.
Yeah, kind of almost like you talked about a short track mentality. How about like a super speedway mentality? We talk about, when we get close to the end of a regular season or we get close to an elimination race, you're up there, you're running solidly inside of the top 5. You want that one position more, but is it worth it to try and go for one position just to maybe potentially lose out on 5 or 6 positions, which ends up translating to points? In the case of like a Nick Gunther running in 2nd, Supta running in 4th place, are you content right now to just run in the position you're in, not give up points, maintain the status quo, and take those stage points that you're currently in position to gain?
I think at this point, yes, because they're pretty comfortable where they're sitting on going on to the next round. So the one they really want to do is pick up the bonus points at the end of the race for the win. So, I don't know how hard they'll push it, but every point matters.
Well, Jeff Supta led the opening 16 laps of this race. Gunther led the next 6, and now Metallic, if he comes around here in P1, he will tie Gunther for most laps led with 6 as well. Another thing in terms of like super speedway racing is, yes, you're the car behind, you're dealing with that dirty air, but you're also getting the benefit of the draft, which is helping you in terms of fuel mileage. Being the leader, Josh Metallic is going to be shorter on fuel than everybody else in his wake.
I tell you, this is starting to have that look, and I don't want to jinx it, but you see the field is spread out in groups all around this track now. We've got to get that long green flag run similar to the last time we raced here. So, again, you want to keep in touch with the leaders.
Rodney again got a great run off of 4. Tried to make the move there on Gunther, but just could not get the power down that inside line through the short chute. And something I've noticed here with these drivers here in this race is a lot of times at Indianapolis, you end up generating that run. It takes you the entire straightaway to do it, and then by the time you get into the corner, it's too late. You've built up that momentum, but you don't have the track position to the inside of the driver that you're battling. We're seeing a lot of drivers. We saw Metallic do it. Sullins has been able to do it numerous laps here consistently, getting the run off the corner to be able to ride the entire straightaway with that momentum to try and make a move.
I tell you, he's doing, like I said, a masterful job of keeping that gap at the important times to Nick Gunther, as we're now within 5 laps of that halfway point. He's sitting in a good position. Again, he's got that gap going down the long straightaway, and by the time they get to the end here, even with the great push he's getting from Rodney and from Jeff, just not enough opportunity to get there and then have the momentum to make a move.
You mentioned this field really spread out. We currently have 12 cars up in the lead pack back to Richard Martin. You got a tandem here with Randy Waugh and Doug Cady. That is 13th and 14th. Then a pack of 4 with Gloud, Melson, Dave Robbins, and John Godfrey. This is about 6.5 seconds behind the race leaders. Then you got Frank Rivard, who obviously would be at an aero disadvantage with having no rear bumper on that race car. Bobby Farrell trying to reel him in. That's 19th and 20th. There's Dennis McCarthy. You got to wonder for some of these drivers here, how much aero damage did they sustain from that incident on the back straightaway. There's a playoff driver in Colin Flick coming in tonight. Flick was not out of the woods. He was only 3 points to the good, 6th in the standings coming into this evening.
Very much into play here, because it does not look like he will gain any stage points here tonight. So Colin Flick could be in jeopardy of moving on.
There you see all those drivers. There's Brian Schilling back here.
27th, that's unusual.
I don't remember seeing him caught up in that big wreck there on the back straightaway, but he might have gotten a piece of it. He's running back here with Greg Palmer, who we know got airborne. They had the front end of that car all crunched in. They've done a nice job of repairing at least the hood region of that machine, but certainly can't be up to speed, so it might be a cause for concern if you're a fan of that Kodak Chevrolet. Brian came into this race 5 points out of the points lead. He was 16 points to the good, but looking at Hagelin and Metallic and Denny Carroll up here just inside of the top 10, it's still mathematically possible that Schilling could fall out of the top 8, especially if those 3 aforementioned drivers get themselves some valuable stage points.
Theoretically possible. An effort to find out what indeed happened, as we are now 3 to go, coming to 2 to go. Looks like Jeremy Jeffrey's going to make a move to the inside of Christian Torres.
Woo!
Ooh, boy, that was close.
Yeah, he slid that right front tire there with that shallow entry into 1. Slid right across the back bumper of the 42.
Don't know if Christian realizes that it's go time for that final point, as Grant Wesley's going to look to come up here and try to get involved as well.
You mentioned as well about carrying points from round 1 into round 2. Grant's going to be carrying some of those with his victory here in round 1. That's certainly something at the forefront of a lot of these playoff contenders' minds as well.
That second group did a pretty good job of staying in line. I saw Tim Nosker make a move to the inside of Grant Wesley earlier, and Grant got away and has now joined the lead draft, but now that gap back to Tim is shrinking.
Denny Carroll right now holding the final stage points paying position. Ron Hagelin right behind him. So this could be an important battle here, as this is indeed the final lap. Oh, here comes Grant getting a big run there. There was contact, actually, I think. The 42 got into the right rear of the 1. That stalled his momentum, so Grant alongside for the 6th position here, coming to the green and white checkers.
Jeremy got Christian going in and may not be satisfied there. He looked like he wanted to make a move on Jeff, but now he may be under the clutches of Christian again as we go into the final turn, looking to cash those stage points.
Nick Gunther got around Metallic. I didn't see that. He's going to pick up the stage victory, get himself a valuable playoff point and 10 valuable stage points. He'll pick up the halfway marker. Metallic will cross in 2nd. Supta will be 4th. Looks like Jeremy Jeffrey is 5th. Grant Wesley in 6th. And I believe Denny Carroll going to be the last driver, 10th position of the playoff drivers that are going to get stage points here tonight.
Just getting word now that lap 22 was when the 4 was involved in secondary contact in one of those wrecks. That is why he is back there.
Wow, so we're going to have to keep an eye on what the situation may be like for Brian Schilling here at the conclusion of this one. Did he build enough of a cushion with his run last week at Dover to advance him into the round of 8 here tonight? There's Colin Flick on pit road. Looks like that would be a regularly scheduled stop. As I was going to mention, we must be somewhere close to these drivers having to now consider coming to pit road for pit stops under green. I believe we went back racing somewhere around, I think it was like lap 19 or 20, so we're pretty close.
Yep, with the caution laps, they might be able to squeeze a couple more out here. And again, you want to pit with company. You don't want to pit by yourself here and come out without the draft. Even one lap without the draft can make a huge difference here. See if we get any takers this time by.
You want the draft. What about the undercut? Is there any benefit of the undercut with fresher tires, even if you come down pit road with other drivers?
If you come with other drivers. Here's Jeremy Jeffries going to duck on this time. With a few others, Denny Carroll, Ron Hagelin, Demar. Bobby Farrell looks like he's on as well.
Randy Waz coming in here in the 21 car. Looks like a lot of these drivers doing a good job under braking, getting that thing woed down to 55 miles per hour before they get to the line. It was funny too because, in terms of iRacing with Indianapolis, I've heard a lot of drivers, there's been a lot of broadcasts we've done at this venue in the last couple of weeks, and they've talked about in open wheel racing and stock car racing, they move where the commitment cone is at. They're not used to that transition of it not being in the same place every single type of race. And so a lot of drivers, when they transitioned over to a stock car race at Indianapolis, they were fully expecting the cone to be in one place, and it was in another.
That's got to be a trip. Here comes our leaders down pit road. Looks like everybody got on clean.
Schilling taking service right there. Is 6 drivers in this pack. Back to Terry Bombard. 4 playoff contenders in this group.
Looking back at lap times, looks like Brian is running about 4/10 off the pace. So maybe a little product of the larger draft in front of him, but he probably is suffering some damage.
So he would obviously be hoping for a yellow, maybe to catch back up to the lead pack, see what he's got, maybe enough aero damage to still be able to stay in the pack if he's got somebody pushing him. Christian Torres going to lead his first lap of the season as he'll dive onto pit lane here. Here comes Nofsker in as well. There's the difference of the comfortability of hot pitting there. You saw the double 88 jump around the outside of the 42 there under braking.
Yep, nothing that we haven't seen from Tim. He's going to get it done, and looks like Dave Nelson coming on now as well.
And that should be the last of the drivers we're waiting on to pit, as that was close. Frank Rivard coming in right across the nose of Dennis McCarthy. I think Billy Elliser's coming in here as well. Glenn Harris.
Might be good they didn't have a back bumper on that, because it wouldn't have cleared.
Exactly. He wouldn't have one now if he had one. Looks like it's going to be Josh Metallic who's going to inherit the race lead. But look at the gap back there to Rodney Sullins and Jeremy Jeffries. They're going to have some momentum here. Does Rodney make the move going into one?
Indeed, yes, he does.
He'll go for the dive.
That'll bring Nick Gunther right back to the draft.
So these pit stops between laps 37 to 39. So that should put us one stop away from getting to the finish.
And there you're going to see the value of the hot pit. There's Tim Nofsker merging back in. He's going to gain significant ground here. He'll be back with that. He'll be with that lead draft now. He'll fall in between Nick Gunther and Jeff Supta.
Around the 5th position there. There is Supta waiting for Grant Wesley, Ron Hagelin, Denny Carroll to close up on him so they can try making up some time on the front 4.
Say Brian Schilling is about the length of the front straightaway from going a lap down, running all by himself now in 26th. So there is movement to be done here. He's going to need a caution to get caught back up for sure.
If you're these top four right now, how much communication's going on of let's just ride single file, let's try and put down some good lap times and open up the gap between ourselves and these other drivers behind us, settle it out between us four.
Well, now that they get cycled through on the green flag stops, they're back on the track. They got the tires back up to temperature. I think so. They had the intensity of battling it out there for several laps to the halfway challenge. Now they've on and off safely. You know, no, whether you're fourth or third, does it really matter at this point? Just as long as you're in contention, and they're going to log a few laps, it looks like.
Tim Nofsker may be the bridge to the gap here because he's only about 3-4 car lengths off the back bumper of Nick Gunther. He's within that 2.5 region where he's going to get the draft off the 55. He also might be only about a 2.5 ahead of Jeff Supta, so he might be towing this 11 up to the lead pack. Plus, you've also got this group of about 4 single file led by Grant Wesley. If they can maybe get just a sniff of the draft of the 11, they could get up here and we could have as many as 10, 11 drivers in this lead pack in the next 5 laps or so if they keep this up.
Could very well happen, especially with those three pushing up to Jeff Supta. If Jeff can keep in touch with Tim in front of him, they'll all eventually get together. But they might want to race it out themselves. It looked like the 111 made a move to the inside there.
Going to be some traffic here for the leaders to have to deal with. That was Cy Jones you saw right there in the 7. Up ahead of him is, I believe, the 6 of Brian Rawson. 2 drivers on the tail end of the lead lap. Cy will move up to the outside line, yield the bottom to the race leaders here through 1 and 2. And Brian will do the same, exiting off the corner. Ooh, brushes a wall coming off of the turn there, trying to stay up as high as he possibly can.
Always makes it interesting there is Grant Wesley is all the way down near the apron on the backstretch. Looks like Ron Hagelin's going to take a position there. Those guys racing amongst each other is not going to help them get caught up.
You know what that looked like? That looked like, I don't want to be leading this group. I don't want to be using up fuel. I'm going to let you by. I'll tuck in line and save some.
Would be an interesting point. We saw them on pit road right around, you know, depending on which group they came in, about lap 38, 39, 40.
And Wesley's got the ability to be able to test the waters in terms of that type of strategy. He's already locked into the next round, so a little bit of experimentation going on here. If you're the driver of that Quaker State Chevrolet, is Greg Palmer going to go a second lap down there in the 22 car. Top 5 get around him. Supta will do the same. I think Supta is within range now where he'll be able to potentially draft up to this top 5. So we'll have 6 drivers in this lead group and 4 of them playoff contenders.
For sure, crunching the math here now. If we get to lap 50, that's the window where we can make it to the end of the race. So Grant may be looking to take the 1 can, because if we go green from here, it's going to be 2 stops, and one of those stops could be 1 can. If you got green lap, you know, pitted within lap 40.
So if you take 1 can, do we go with only right side tires so we don't spend nearly as long on pit road?
I think that's perfectly plausible here.
And if I'm not mistaken,
7 seconds or so of time gained by doing that.
We're gonna be sneaky. We're going inside the cockpit of the 1. I think I saw him clutching going into the corner. Half throttle there. I'm pretty sure I saw that car bogged down at one point going into one of these turns in the draft of the 38. So even up here inside of the top 5, we've got drivers that are saving as much fuel as they can. Caution's out. I just saw the red lights there at the entrance of pit road. This changes up everything.
That's because we were talking about all the fuel mileage and strategies.
Right? It always happens that way.
Looking around, I have yet to find something.
There was smoke going into 1 on the inside line. Though who the perpetrator was is yet to be determined.
Up, I see the smoke in turn 1. Somebody's up by the wall.
Looks like it might have been the 72 of Jim Glaude.
I think you're right.
Well, along with the 95 of Colin Flick. Oh, Colin got really loose there. Swung out wide for the entry to the corner. In the back end, those rear tires just never gripped.
Just completely came out there.
It's been a tough night for our Challenger points leader. Talked to him last week after his podium finish at Dover, and he said that was huge. That was so important for him to come into this race with the cushion that he had. Well, that cushion may evaporate here tonight, as he's been in a couple of incidents this evening. He came into this race above the cut line, but not by much, and a number of drivers that were below him and that cut line have been putting together top 5 performances so far here this evening.
And Jim Glad, after the stupendous race to P2 last week, has found himself almost a pinata tonight. He's had some good collision avoidances, but then he got tagged in the back there, and a instant reaction on that by the 35 as well. And that sent him up into the wall.
Speaking of getting
Action
tagged,
on pit road here.
yeah, there was a little contact right there between Tim Nofsker coming into his pit stall into Rodney Sullins. Denny Carroll going to be the first off of pit road, is really congested there on pit road exit. That says to me fuel only for the 41.
Fuel only or 2 tires. We'll have to see. Tim Nosker made a good exit there too. I don't know if he got full service or not.
Jeremy Jeffries came off pit road second, with Gunther Sullins, who came in the leader, comes out fourth, and Josh Metallic in fifth. It was really congested there in the final third of pit road towards the exit. A number of drivers having to almost completely lift out of the throttle as others pulled out in front of them. We mentioned this is a very narrow pit road, only really 2 lanes available, and 2 very narrow lanes at that.
It was 4 tires for the 088, but 2 tires, rights only, for the 41 of Denny Carroll.
So a bid for track position here, and maybe the only play that Denny Carroll's got at this point as well. I mean, we already documented a number of drivers that were in the same boat as him below the cut line. We saw Josh Metallic finish second in the stage. He's been top 5 all night, been out in front for a total of 11 laps. Ron Hagelin, he's been up in the top 10 all evening long. He's currently, last time by, scored in 7th. So for Denny Carroll to leapfrog those drivers, you kind of have to do something different. And we mentioned the benefit of clean air, so maybe the clean air cancels out those worn left side tires.
We're going to find out, because he's going to be under threat as soon as that green flag drops, and they're going to be coming for him right away, and we'll have to see. We know what happened at Dover last week. We'll have to see with the restarts with 2 tires if he's able to get out there while under pressure.
So Denny Carroll, not necessarily in a must-win situation, but making a bid for track position through strategy. Nearing 20 laps to go here tonight. Still see the lights on the pace car, so we'll have an extra lap of pacing here before we turn them loose. We're over halfway through this race. Sean, why don't you give us a look at what's happening here this week in the world of RTG in terms of racing?
Well, we've got fun stuff going on tomorrow night on the iRacing side. Man, did we have a race at Kansas last week. You got to come check that out and talk to us about some of that stuff. We've been having a blast. This week we are at Okayama International, the short version, with the Dallara DW12 cars. Wednesday night's Aero 88 series is bringing us to Big Track Talladega, the 70/80s Virgin. That should be a good, fun time. And Thursday night for Tally Challenge, we're back at BSR Night, Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway.
Educate me. I've never heard of Okayama. What is that track?
A whole lot of turns, and the short version, I think, is about less than a mile of a whole lot of little left and right turns with a really overpowered, fast open wheel car.
Huh.
So it's got a pretty good elevation change in there too, if the short version includes the backside of the track.
See the 2 lucky dog drivers up there on the outside line. Greg Palmer is going to get one of his 2 laps back. Cy Jones will get back on the same lap as the leader, Denny Carroll. Working our 3rd caution of the night. We had 28 drivers take the green flag. 27 are still running. We'll have 26 of them on the lead lap in this upcoming restart. The only driver out of the race is the 6 of Brian Rawson. And Christian Torres diving to pit road. I saw a number of drivers rather low there on the front straightaway coming out of turn 4. Wondered if anybody might make a bid to come down and top off. Looks like only one driver inside the top 10 actually committing to that.
It's a great idea, and not a playoff driver. Christian's got nothing to lose. He's here to win, and it's not a bad move at all. We're going to get the green with 21 to go. We know we can probably make 20. Try to save one, bank on another caution. It's quite possible we're going to have one. So no problem with that at all.
So to your point, are we done with pit road here if you're any of these front runners, specifically the playoff drivers, or is there a point where we go long enough into a run, a caution come out, and we still have, maybe 7, 8 laps, maybe as many as 10 laps still to go, and we come to pit road and make a bid for fresh tires?
I tell you, I'm glad I don't have to make those calls and sit there and figure it out by myself. Honestly, I'm going to want tires. I mean, you really are. I mean, if we go 10 laps here, I think you'll probably see them all come on and get tires. But if we go 2 laps, probably not, because that's going to get everybody in the fuel window.
So far here tonight, we've had a total of 7 drivers out in front. Jeff Supta still has led the most laps, 16 circuits out in front here at the Brickyard. Josh Metallic, the only other driver that's led double digits. He's had 11 laps out in front. 9 laps led for Nick Gunther, 7 for Rodney Sullins. Denny Carroll has led 2, will lead 3 when he brings us back around here for this restart. And then 1 lap led apiece for Tim Nofsker, Christian Torres, and Richard Martin.
Tell you, that cutoff line is looking really close. We got Colin Flick currently sitting 25th, and we know he got 0 points at the stage. So there's definitely some changing that could be going on when the night is over tonight.
Yeah, and again, I always say this, we do our best here to try and calculate as things are happening live, but please do not take my words as gospel as to who I think is in, who is out. We're going to get those official points before the end of this broadcast. We'll be letting you know who those 8 official drivers are that are moving on to the next round.
Yeah, don't take my advice too. As we're under green, let's see how Denny Carroll's going to do. They could go 3 wide in a short shoot.
They thought about it.
They thought better of it, thank God. Nick Gunther falls back in line here, and we're going to be 2 wide heading out of 2.
They know that 41's got older left sides, and they're trying to take advantage of it. Now everybody's going to move up against that bright yellow wall and try and move around the outside of the Crown Royal Chevrolet. Jeremy Jeffries goes to the point. Sullins clears for second. Gunther now going to be side by side for third place, with Supta going to be up there with him as well. They continue to try and freight train that 41 on the bottom.
Looks like even Josh Metallic's under fire right now from Randy Waugh back there around 6th place. Josh he's got to get himself in a better position, I think, if he wants to advance.
It was interesting. I don't know if my eyes are playing tricks on me. Either Supta dove from the top line down to the bottom, or Metallic did not get a good restart, because it looked like there was quite a gap from him to the driver in front of him. There's some smoke over here on the bottom of 1 and 2 down towards the apron. We are still green, but someone had a moment down there at some point.
It looks that way as we're all filing back in single file. Yeah, hard to tell what happened there at the start. It looks like Josh has got it gathered back up, and he's the man on a mission again.
Those older tires of Denny Carroll have now dropped back to, I believe, the 7th position. That's where he currently has been able to tuck in line. Meanwhile, up at the front, Sullen's trying to put the pressure on Jeremy Jeffries. And we saw Nick Gunther, Jeff Supta, to have a little bit of extra time having to get around the 41. That might help them, because they're going to have a tremendous run on the top 2.
They sure are, as they come down here, and they're going to close it up nicely.
And it looks like the smoke that we saw over there was the 22 of Greg Palmer actually pulling his car to a stop on the bottom of the racetrack to retire from the event. That's why there was no caution. It was off the racing surface. So Greg Palmer going to join Brian Rawson in the garage area for the conclusion of this one.
Yep, Jeremy's going to try to log some leading laps now. The question is Rodney, who's made some runs here for the lead, he has not led a lap, I don't believe, yet. Does he want to try to get up here and pick up one? Because he was pretty significantly back tonight coming in. Is he any way mathematically eligible, even with the win here?
Who are we talking
about? The
win
will get him through. Rodney.
Rodney's not in the playoffs.
That's right. Rodney fell out 13th.
Yeah,
You're right.
he wasn't here for the finale, the regular season finale, so he fell below the playoffs cut line.
Just page into that as you were saying that. Yep, he's 13th, and that's locked in.
Another driver that might have gone with a 2-tire strategy, I'm not sure, but he gained a ton of track position, is Randy Waugh. Another driver that we kind of saw riding out back at one point after the green flag pit stops. He was back in a two-car tandem. I believe he was back around 18th or 19th place. He's now up inside of the top 10, holding down 8th, right behind Denny Carroll and right in front of Ron Hagelin. He started shotgun on the field here tonight from the 29th position. So good run here in the second half of this race.
And he did get 4 tires. Just went back and checked his pit stop. So great stop.
And take a look at Brian Schilling. We heard he had some aero damage. I kind of wondered, though, what would happen if he was up in the pack, having the benefit of someone in front of him, someone behind him. He's holding down 10th position. So a couple of drivers that last caution really benefited, getting back up here in this lead pack and maybe able to salvage something of what was looking like was going to be a pretty horrible points night.
He desperately needed that caution, and it's worked out well for him. I don't see a whole lot of visible damage on that car, but if he's got somebody in front of him and somebody behind him, he's going to be just fine. He's keeping pace just good.
We saw Jeremy Jeffries win the first race of the season. He would then win 2 weeks later. He'd win 2 weeks after that, and then he would win 2 weeks after that, picking up 4 victories in the first 7 races of the season. He's been on a bit of a cold streak. It's been middle of June back at Atlanta since we saw this number 1 in victory lane. But hey, he's here in the closing stages looking for his series-leading 5th win here in season 65.
And as we cross the yard of bricks this next time, I will be inside of 15 laps to go. So should the caution flag wave, we will be racing back from here to the conclusion of this event. Still looking at single file all the way down the backstretch.
It's like we've got 20 drivers in this lead pack right now, stretching as far back as about 3.5 seconds behind the race leader, Jeremy Jeffries. Rodney Sullins right now, the fly in the playoff ointment as he's currently in the 2nd position. You mentioned him getting that runner-up finish to Josh Metallic, little motivation to get that 1 position better. It's interesting, in the last 48 hours, Rodney and I had a chat going on, and he was talking about Indy. He says he loves this racetrack, so you gotta think he's motivated here tonight. Even though he's not battling in the playoffs, still wants that checkered flag this evening. Everybody wants to have that ceremonial where they're able to go down there in the front straightaway and kiss the yard of bricks.
As we see Jeff Supta now make a move on Nick Gunther to take over 3rd place. Tim Nosker was looking at having a look.
A lot of times, you mentioned how difficult it is to pass here. A lot of times, to be able to get a run, to be able to clear for a position, you have to rely on the driver in front of you maybe making a mistake, and I would have to think a big component into that is how well you preserve that right front tire. Are there any tricks of the trade to be able to do that better than the drivers around you, or does it kind of come down to the luck of your positioning and everything as to whether or not your tire heat's going to build up more than the drivers around you?
Well, it's funny, as you mentioned that a couple laps ago when you were going on, I was going to mention you saw Nick when he was leading Jeff. Nick and Jeff were taking a distinctly different entry into turns 1 and 3 than Rodney and Jeremy. Rodney and Jeremy are taking the wider arc into there, and Nick and Jeff almost look like they're trying to gain position, but they're just taking even a little bit there, but not as pronounced, a more closer, deeper entry. And just like Jeremy's doing there, is a distinctly different line. Simple math, the harder you turn those front wheels, the more temperature you're going to build, and over the length of an entire run, it's going to be less performance of the tire at the end. So as gentle as you can be, as Tim Noster now is looking to make that move on Nick Gunther going into the short chute here. See if he can pull it off, or if Nick's going to roll the outside. Looks like he is. It's just no help. You're not going to get it done.
Supta got the wall in front of that side-by-side battle for the 4th position. And we saw it just a moment ago as well. The last time they were going through 3 and 4, Jeremy Jeffries got really tight, had to really turn the wheel hard left and not hit the wall. Back end nearly came around him. Maybe a little PTSD from 1 week ago at Dover, where he ended up having some issues on cold tires, not once but twice on that inside line while out in front leading the race. And I mean, after what happened last week at the Monster Mile, you don't want to throw away potentially another win here this evening at the Brickyard.
Nope, he's going to hold that wheel nice and tight. Opportunities here as they overtake the damaged vehicle of Jim Glaude. And you see again, Jeremy takes the tighter entry, but Rodney has been consistently taking that wider entry as often as he can, and I think that will help him in the long run.
Haven't seen it quite as much here on this run, but I did just see the front splitter of the 55 of Nick Gunther bogged down into the racing surface, so throwing in the clutch as they were making their way around that 72 of Jim Glaude. I think I just saw him do it there again, trying to see if they can save that little bit of extra fuel. It's interesting because I could have sworn I saw Jeremy
Oh, it's
Jeffries
going
do
to
it on
not
the
matter
early
now as I
going.
see trouble in the back. I see Jim Glaude around. I see Randy Waugh into Brian Schilling. So the caution
And,
should be coming out.
yep. But now it's decision time. We saved the fuel. We might have enough to get to the end, but now we're going to be getting a restart with maybe around 10 to go. Ooh, do we give it that track position for tires? We've got some pretty worn tires right now. At least a lot of heat built up.
Well, I said this earlier. If it was going to be 10 laps in, I'd want tires, and I want tires. The question could be 2 or 4. Those guys like Danny Carroll, who took 2 last time, he's pretty much got to get 4.
Did a good job there on those 2 tires, though. Was holding up as high as 7th place. I think he actually is in the middle of this incident. As a matter
Yep,
of
till
fact,
about
they were
here.
making their way around the lap car of Jim Glaude.
Jim gets the wall just a little bit as Denny's pushing up, and then as Jim's locked it down, sliding back on, you're going to see further ahead the 21 and the 4.
Yeah, Randy had to go way down to the inside to avoid the wreck.
Caught the
Focus
grass
on
and
him.
came right up in front of Brian.
Almost gets flipped over there. Fortunately, all 4 wheels stayed pretty planted to the ground.
Brian Schilling has found himself having horrible luck at the 2/3 points of these races. He's been in the wrong place at the wrong time a couple of times.
Tough night for Jim Glaude, 1 week removed from that runner-up finish last week at Dover. Looks like he's brought his car down pit road into the garage area, and we've got a mixed bag here. Looks like 3 drivers are staying out, including Christian Torres, who we saw top off at the end of the last caution period. Nofsker and Metallic stay out. Everybody else is on pit road.
Interesting to see if we go green from here, whether they can hold up or not. But we could, we know the cautions can tend to breed cautions.
Rodney with 2. Denny goes with 2 again. Think Supta took 2. Jeffries and Gunther
Everybody
will
else
take
4.
4.
There's still going to be a good 8 laps to go when we go green here. I probably would have opted for 4.
So Nofsker's going to roll the dice. He's not battling for the championship. He's not in the playoffs. I am a little surprised that Metallic didn't come down pit road because, again, I know that sometimes drivers aren't completely aware of what their scenario is, but more often than not, I'll ask them, are you doing the math in your head? Are you counting cars? And they say, oh yeah, absolutely, every single lap. Looking at his scenario coming into tonight, we've not talked a whole lot about Dave Melson this evening. He's been hovering pretty much between 11th through 15th most of the night. We know Bob LaChance isn't in the field. Ron Hagelin's been running well, but he's not really been up inside the top 5 like Metallic has. And Metallic's got those 9 stage points that he was able to cash in on the halfway point. He's sitting in a pretty good position to point his way in above the cut line. I'm surprised that he would go with the track position over the tires here. Potentially, I would say, even if he went with 4 tires, he'd probably restart around 7th or 8th position. He's going to be at a deficit in terms of grip here. Does he think that he maybe will fall back to 7th or 8th, be able to maintain where he was at? I don't know.
Not sure what he's doing. He's pulling off to the inside here as we come in to take the green flag. He was 6th place when the caution came out. And indeed, he's off to the inside. I don't know if he's got damage or what, but he's going to let the field pass.
Oh, we got a wreck in the back.
And they're wrecking the back. Somebody's up in the air.
That was Bobby Farrell
involved.
and Glenn Harris. Oh, we're wrecking up ahead of him.
Christian Torres is around.
Gosh. And he's going to get
Nelson's
clobbered by
involved.
Dave Melson. Colin Flick is in it. Schilling gets collected again. Doug Cady late hit.
Cautions breed cautions. I didn't see what happened to Christian Torres. I'll have to go back and look at that one.
Oh, and we're wrecking up ahead. Tim Nofsker. Look out. Oh my gosh, Ron Hagelin!
Run into him.
3 wide here coming back to the stripe. It looks like it's going to be Jeff Supta who's going to come back to the caution. Sullins in second. And then a who's who from third on back.
Yeah, this was racing back. And there was an incident in the back involving the 92, then another incident in front involving the 088, and then a third incident involving the 42.
There is a lot to unpack on this lap. Start first with just when they were coming to the green flag for the restart. I'm almost wondering if I'm correct. I think on that last restart, I think Metallic lost a gear, and I think that's why he was pulled to the inside.
It's a plausible scenario. Oh boy.
Was Farrell coming up the racetrack. Gets the 21 and the 8. Bit of a wheelie right there, and then you see the smoke up ahead. We'll show what happened there involving the 42 of Christian Torres, who restarted in third place.
Looked like he just got on the apron here, and it just unloaded on him.
Oh, nowhere for Dave Melson to go.
Same for Colin Flick, Terry Bombard.
Brian
Schilling there, didn't see where he got it, but you can see the damage there on the right side.
I believe when the 95 got clipped, it sent him up into the 4.
And nothing you could do. It's just again, poor Brian. He just it's been one of those races. He's had a couple of those, unfortunately, this season. And then we have it looks like the 088 and 11 got close to each other, and there was contact up here.
Oh, bit of a bump right there. Rodney into Jeff, sends him into Tim. And then as we go into 3, just arguing over real estate again. And nowhere for Ron Hagelin to go. That's a lot of drivers involved that were hovering around that bubble spot.
When you're coming out of one of those turns there and you see, a car spinning, especially when it's secondary and afterwards, you're not expecting it. It's I don't know how you can adjust the trajectory of your car at that point for 111.
You can't. That's why I was going to mention that first incident over there in turn 1. I was shocked that Jeremy Jeffries and Grant Wesley were able to avoid and get to the inside, because when you go into a corner here at Indy, specifically into the first couple of corners, 1 and 3, you're committed to that line. You cannot move high, you cannot move low without hitting something.
And you saw there is in real time. There's just not a lot of time to react. When we look at incidents post-race, it's, you always have to look at it in real time, because in, 17th time slow-mo, anybody can rethink everything in the moment. But it just happens that fast. And I think we almost saw the 024 possibly get a little contact with the 111 right before he went up into the 088. As pace car is off, we're getting ready to go again here.
6 to go. Looks like everybody involved in the incident is going to continue on. Supta and Sullins the front row here, with Jeffries, Wesley, and Carroll the top 5.
2x2 into turn 1. A lot of mixed bags of strategies here. We'll see if we can get going here.
Ron Hagelin, who took that hit into Tim Knopfsker, restart up here inside of the top 10. You mentioned Dennis McCarthy in that incident. He also restarted in the top 10. I believe he was 9th when we took this green flag. So whatever damage they got, not worth coming to pit road to repair and give up the track position.
It's going to be tight here now, as we're going to come around to take 5 to go. This first 5 cars you can put on a blanket. Just get something loose there, and there's contact.
And there goes Gunther around. Up and into Denny Carroll. Oh, man, Christian Torres got clobbered by somebody.
Tough place for an incident to happen, as they're really bottlenecked in there.
Josh Metallic was in that.
Racing back here.
Frank Rivard's on pit road. Randy Waz on pit road. Rodney led them back to the start-finish line here. We're going to probably get back green, but there will be a very low amount of laps still to be run when we do.
It's going to be a shootout for sure. Rodney got away clean on the backstretch there and was able to just continue on and take it to the caution flag.
Watch the 11 of Jeff Supta. He had his hands full on the inside line. That's what stacked him up. Jeremy's going to try and shoot up there, maybe to the middle. Maybe thought he was clear to tuck in line behind Gunther. Gets him in the left rear.
It's so hard to adjust right there in the moment, just like we just talked about. It just, if you've got to jog to the outside because there's a checkup in front of you, it's tough, and it shot him up to the outside. Looks like.
And let's take a look and see what happened behind them too, because Christian Torres came flying in, and I think he got a little assistance. 21 of Randy Wall we know was in it. Oh wow! Now we know
He's parted
why.
for him there.
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
That was Dave Robbins who was coming back up the track. He, Rivard, and Randy Waugh all got together, shot down towards the inside wall, and then slid right back up the track.
Not going to see any of our leaders on pit road this time by, but we are going to see Jeremy, Nick, looks like Billy Elasaur, and possibly Colin Flick coming down.
Yeah, Elasaur, you
Josh
see right
Metallic
there.
staying in the back there. I got to wonder, he must have a gear or something. It looks like he was involved at the end there as well.
Neither Frank Rivard nor Randy Waugh were able to drive their race cars back. Take a look at the impact for both of these cars right here. Oh gosh! That Armco barrier just grabbed the both of them.
Yep, and confirmed we are missing a gear on the 39.
Here's a look with the camera focused on the 21 car. Wow.
I think the Albanian judge gave that a 9.2.
I think someone's going to give us a pretty good shot of what that looked like from a driver's point of view. Is going to be the Sunoco Ford of Cy Jones. Wow.
Wow is right. And there's another one. Oh boy, look out. Look out again. One more time.
He was 23rd when he crossed the stripe prior to that incident. Came around to hit the yard of bricks in 17th.
Well, we're fixing to have 3 laps. 3 laps to conclude this thing, so it's safe to say this is the final restart.
Now for Jeremy Jeffries, Nick Gunther, you mentioned them on pit road. They're going to have a lack of track position late. Good for them having those stage points at the midway portion of this event. They came into this race 3rd and 4th in the point standings with a bit of breathing space between them and the cut line. See if it's going to be enough for them to be able to advance. As Rodney Sullins, Grant Wesley going to be the front row. Rodney chooses the outside line here as the control car for this restart. Grant looking for 2 wins in a row will be on the inside line. We'll see which lane wins out. It's pretty even on the launch.
I think that was a good choice by Rodney. We'll see how it plays out when we get through turn 2. If Grant clear him in the short chute, though, it won't matter.
And he will.
He's going to hold position as we go into 2. Jeff's now going to take a look to the inside, but looks like the drafting line is going to be on the outside here as we go down the backstretch. Oh, they're tight there between the 088 and the 007.
Nofsker saw a lane, stuck his nose in. Katie shuts the door. Rodney gets a run. Gonna maybe look to the right rear of Grant Wesley going into 3. They all get tight through the short chute.
088 into the wall there. Grant got a great run off of 4 here. He's got a good gap back to Rodney. That should propel himself. Looks like we've got 6 cars now breaking away. Big gap between Nofsker and Supta now as Rodney may take a look to the inside, does not.
I was going to say, that good run for Grant, was it too good a run? Did he open up too much distance between him and the 38?
I don't know. I want as big a gap right here as we come off of this turn as possible. I think Grant's going to get it. I mean, he's going to get it down the run down here. They got 3 lined up behind him, but by the time they get there, there's not going to be enough time for them to make the move, and Grant's going to have a unchallenged entry into turn 3, probably. They're closed, but they're just not going to get there.
Couple more corners to traverse, half the front straightaway before we come around to receive the white flag.
Better run for Rodney off the return this time. He's set up pretty good. I
Yeah,
don't know
but he
if he'll get
doesn't
there
have
this time.
Ron to his back bumper, maybe, to be able to get the run he needs. Let's see. Can they generate it down the front stretch here? White flag in the air. 1 lap to go here in playoff race number 2. Grant looking to go 2 for 2 to kick off the postseason.
He's going to get there, but it's going to be just too late. And Terry Bombard's going to go to the outside now, but can Rodney get a run here off of 2? He's got to pull it in really good here. Just hang it out.
Grant's going to be looking, I guarantee you, more in the rearview mirror than out the windshield here for this final mile.
He got that gap again, just like we saw Josh Metallic doing earlier. That's the key to everything here, getting off 2 and 4, and Grant has done it again. They're not going to get there.
Yeah, they're going to start battling for 3rd place on back as Terry looks to the inside of Ron Hagelin. Rodney sliding up off the corner there. Grant nearly brushes the wall himself in the race lead, but gap is manageable for Grant Wesley. And what a way to kick off the playoffs. He had a 0 in the win column during the regular season. He's 2 for 2 in the first round as Grant Wesley is going to pick up the checkered flag tonight at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Back to back. Rodney will get 2nd place again. That's his second place in the last 3 races here. Ron Hagelin, he's going to be the one to talk about, finishing in 3rd place tonight. See if that was enough for Ron to move safely into the playoffs. I'm going to go and assume it will be.
That's going to be huge for him, yeah.
The challenge is going to be Josh Metallic and Denny Carl. I don't know where Denny finished. Let me pull it up here.
Looks like scoring saying 14th.
And Josh 15th, interestingly enough. So inverted order from where they are in the standings.
The gap between the two of them was 9 points. Josh got 9 points at the halfway. Denny got 1. So I'd say advantage to the 39.
And he's got a win, which I don't know if we do a tiebreaker. We probably take the extra driver. I don't think it'll come to that.
The question is, though, if Ron Hagelin was the one to move in, taking advantage of Bob LaChance not in the field tonight, did Metallic or Carroll do enough to eliminate Melson or Flick, who both had some rather poor performances here tonight? Melson finished barely on the tail end of the lead lap in 21st, and Flick ended up finishing in 19th.
There's 21 points or so between those guys back to Denny, so, oh, this is going to be close.
Yeah, it is. May come down to just single points. Speaking of points, going to be some really valuable bonus points that Grant Wesley's going to carry into the next round of the playoffs. Back-to-back victories, Dover and Indianapolis here in round 1.
Looks like Doug Cady is going to bring home our Challenger win in 6th place tonight.
2nd Challenger win of the season for him. Grant going to park it right there on the start-finish line. He'll be momentarily kissing those yard of bricks. I don't know, I know it's an IndyCar thing. In RTG, do we drink milk in Victory Lane here?
Not that I'm aware of. Your beverage of choice. Mine right now will be water.
Here's a look at those finishing results. Good run for Terry Bombard here tonight. Saw him make that move late for 3rd place on Hagelin. Couldn't pull it off, but solid top 5 run for him here this evening. Tim Nofsker, saw him play the alternative strategy. We saw him actually spun around in that final caution from the race lead, battling with Jeff Supta, and he was able to work his way back up into the top 5 and 5th. You mentioned Doug Cady. Great run for him. Gets the Challenger victory tonight in 6th. Jeff Supta brings it home in 7th. I believe he managed to hang on and lead the most laps tonight. Yes, he did. 18 laps led for him. Richard Martin, great run in the 8th position. John Godfrey, I believe he did not even put a lap time down in qualifying. Started out back, finishes in 9th. And Dennis McCarthy, great run for him, finishing out the top 10. Bobby Farrell, great run in 11th. Jeremy Jeffries and Nick Gunther managed to work their way back up to finish 12th and 13th. That should be enough with the stage points they accumulated as well for them to advance. Denny Carroll, Josh Metallic, as we mentioned, they're question marks right now, 14th and 15th for them. Brian Schilling back in 16th place, also a bit of a question mark for him. Christian Torres in 17th. Glenn Harris was 18th. Colin Flick, 19th place. He may have fallen below the cut line. We'll have to see if he built enough of a cushion last week. Cy Jones finishes 20th. And then Dave Melson, Billy Elliser were the last drivers to finish this race and on the lead lap. Dave Robbins, Frank Rivard, Randy Waugh, Jim Glaude, Greg Palmer, and Brian Rawson Those half dozen drivers did not reach the conclusion under power. No playoff drivers out of the race, but we'll have to wait and see of those that were able to survive, those that were able to soldier on, who is moving on to the round of 8 and whose road to the championship comes to a close here tonight.
We are tabulating those as we speak, sir.
So as we await that news, we'll head into our FRM post-race wind down, and let's see if we can dial up the Challenger winner on the evening, bringing home a solid P6. Let's dial up that Napa 007 of Doug Cady. And as soon as I get ready to move him, he left. Wow. Okay.
Just like that.
I guess we're going to our podium finishers then. Horrible timing on my part. Let's see if we can get our third place finish here. Ron Hagelin, who awaits his fate in terms of whether he's moving on to the next round.
User was moved to
Hey
your
Ron,
channel.
it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what, elimination race, you come into this event around the cut line, solid run here tonight. You weren't able to capitalize on stage points, but you were up there when it mattered the most, bringing it home solidly inside of the top 5, getting good points at the close of this race. I'll ask you first off, were you counting cars, counting points, and do you think you've done enough to advance into the round of 8?
Yeah, that was kind of essential for me tonight to finish where I did. So I feel very lucky at that because I had hit the wall a couple of times and definitely had damage after the last couple of accidents. So I was just praying.
Well, Ron, we saw you. Like I said, you had a couple accidents. You had some damage. You caught up in one of those late ones there. I believe with some pretty hard contact with the 088 on the back end of one of those incidents, and you still managed to get it up there and hang tough. So I'm optimistic. I think you may have done enough to make it in, sir.
I'm hoping so. That was fun too. That was literally, I love this track.
Now, we talk about the challenges of Indianapolis, but then you also combine in the fact that it's an elimination race. How much more difficult does it make your job behind the wheel of one of these race cars? Just one extra thing to have to think about while you're trying to tackle all the ins and outs of this 2.5 mile speedway.
Well, my hands are sweaty, if that says anything.
Well, I can let you know unofficially right now, Ron, but we just got the unofficial word from Jeremy that you're in 6th position. So it looks like you will indeed move on.
Oh, that's great to hear. The first time I've been in a chase in quite a while.
Well, congratulations on that, Ron. Some challenging tracks going to be coming up here in this second round. Now having the news, knowing that you're moving on here in the playoffs. Iowa, Watkins Glen, what's the confidence level? How good you like those racetracks and maybe advancing into the Final Four, take one step closer to this championship?
I like my odds really good as long as I keep myself out of trouble because I love both them tracks.
Well, we wish you luck on that. Congratulations on the great run here tonight. Solid finish in the podium. 3rd place to advance into the next round of the playoffs. Before we let you go, floor is yours, Ron, for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Just like thank RTG for continuing this for so long. And of course, you guys for broadcasting it. It's just been a blast. Like, thank everyone involved.
Well, Ron Hagelin, 3rd place tonight's going to be enough for him to be one of the 8 drivers moving on to battle for this championship here in Season 65 for the Barebones Racing Series. Congratulations on the job well done here this evening. Best of luck next week at Iowa.
Thank you, sir.
Let's see if we can now dial up our
User was
2nd
moved
place
out of your
finisher
channel.
here this evening, the highest of the non-playoff drivers. Let's get a hold of Rodney Sullins.
User was moved to your
Hey
channel.
Rodney, it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I sure do, guys. How you doing?
Well, man, I know you've told me you love this racetrack. You had this car out in clean air for a good portion of this one. And, man, I could see you were just trying to manage a gap to be able to generate a run to the 88. What little more did you need? Was it maybe just the dirty air? You hit a wall as soon as you would get to a certain point? Was it a timing thing? What was it you needed just to get that little extra, maybe even half a car length to be able to get to his left rear?
Well, Ron told me a little bit before the last restart that he had some damage. So he would get a little bit of a run and I'd get a push, but I knew if I didn't get a really good push, because Grant had 4 tires and I had 2. I only took 2 the last pit stop. Um, so I knew I had to pretty much get around him to to try to keep him behind me because his 2 tires, and that's why I took the outside on the restart because I thought that was my best opportunity with him with 4 tires and me with 2. But I should have took 4 tires, but finished second to Grant here. I guess I can't complain. It was a good night.
Well, Rodney, we pointed out earlier in the broadcast you had finished second here in season 60, and I pointed out during the race you were taking a quite more gentler, wider entries into turn 1 and 3, and I thought that was going to pay off for you in the long runs, and it seemed like it did. But without the direct help behind you, and we saw Josh doing it earlier in the race, and Grant was doing such a good job of getting off of 4. And that seemed to be the key to everything because you would draft up to him, but by the time you got there, it was just too late to make a move. And it was is that pretty much how it felt to you?
Yes, sir. That's exactly how it was. Grant's a great driver. He knows how to play with the air. He knows how to drive. He knows how to get on and off corners. He's one of the best here. So I knew, especially being handicapped with just 2 tires, that it was, like I say, I was probably going to have to get probably a half a car length in front of him to even have a chance. And I knew I never had that run. So I didn't want to. I knew if we got too wide that somebody would probably make a move inside or outside of us, and then I'd just go backwards. So at that point, I just said, second place is all I'm going to get.
Now, that was when you were at a disadvantage with tires. Let's talk about when you were on equal footing with the rest of the other drivers up there at the front, because there were only a few drivers that we were able to see generate a run off of the corner and be able to maintain it down the straightaway to be able to pick up spots. And you were one of those drivers. Obviously, we've talked about all the different facets with the track, the car, the setup of preserving that right front tire. And you need to have that tire cool down for the long run to have the turnability through the center to be able to get the runs that we saw you be able to do. What were you able to find that maybe some others were searching for to allow you to generate that run and have the entire, whether it was front or back straightaway, to maintain that momentum?
Well, I think Sean kind of hit on it a little bit earlier. During practice, I kind of missed the corner once and accidentally kind of stayed in it and turned. And I was like, hey, I like the way that felt through the corner and coming off. So I tried to work on it and tried to perfect it, if you will. But at times, sometimes when you're working on something like that and in the heat of the moment, you kind of forget about it and go back to how how to turn and get through the corners. So I kind of tried it some and then laid off of it some, just to, like you say, to keep the tires under you. So it's a fun track. It's a good setup. Really enjoy racing this place, as you've already documented. Just wish I'd had 4 tires because I was in position to win.
Well, you ran a smart race all night, Rodney. I was watching you from my bird's eye view up here during that whole long first run, and you were running with Tim Nosker, and we all know Tim loves to show up for some Indianapolis, and you were running right with him, and then you separated from him, and you drove yourself right up into contention before we got to that green flag pit stop. So good job again there, sir.
I certainly appreciate it. I've got to go back and look. There was a spot right before that first caution where we went into turn 1 3 wide. And I didn't know that the 3 of us were going to make it through the corner. So I know it was close. So I'm lucky to even still be here because that would have been ugly because that was right at the beginning of the race or early on in the race. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. I do enjoy this place.
A strong race car here tonight. Out in front for a good portion of this race, bringing home solidly in the podium. Second place here this evening. Rodney, congratulations on the great run here tonight. Before we let you go, we'll turn it over to you for some thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
I appreciate it, fellas. As always, Flatout Racing Network, Seth, you and Prime do a great job. I'm really looking forward to watching this one. Rolling Thunder Gaming, Bones, again, Prime. This is a diamond of a place to be. I'm so glad when I returned that this is a place that I found or was told about by Mr. Godfrey and Chris Elliott. But the admins tonight, Jeremy Jeffries, Prime again, um, do a great job. This is a fun series. My admins on Thursdays, Josh, Tim. Again, thank you guys for welcoming me in and letting me hang on y'all's coattails. All the admins and drivers here at Rolling Thunder Gaming. It's a good group of people here, a lot of fun, a lot of talent. Black Rifle Coffee, Havana Barista Wickers, my Burnt Screwdrivers teammates. Thank you guys. Congrats again to Grant. Man, I still don't know if I'd have beat Grant with 4 tires, but I like my chances better. Nice run, Ron Haglin. Dad, thanks for watching. Love you. One of these days, maybe I'll get a checkered flag for you. But thanks, guys.
Rodney Sullins brings it home solidly here tonight, second place. Great outing here at Indianapolis. Congratulations on the great run tonight. Best of luck here. Still got 3 more races to maybe park this 38 in victory lane, starting with Iowa next week.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Rodney Sullins with the second place performance, as we'll now go down to victory lane and dial up 2-time winner on the season, 2-time winner in the playoffs, Grant Wesley.
User was moved to your
Hey, Grant,
channel.
it's Sean and Seth up here in the upper end booth. You got us?
I got you.
Well, man, I'll tell you what. You had the consistency during the regular season, but you were looking for that checkered flag. We begin the playoffs. You have 1. Nope. Make that 2 checkered flags here as you sweep the first round here. Obviously, we talked about the relief coming into this race, knowing you were locked into the round of 8, but we also talked about the motivation now. You have the opportunity to go out there, be a little bit more aggressive, be able to kind of pad those bonus points in preparation for the next round. You did just that here this evening, but kind of had to be patient in working your way up there to the front. When did you kind of figure now is the time to pounce?
Yeah, so I qualified like 10th or 8th. It wasn't real good. And, I made my way up to, I think, top 6, and I was pretty well stuck there. And there was a caution or a green flag pit stop. Yeah, it was during a green flag pit stop at halfway. I slid through my stall, and when I backed up, I was too close to the wall, so I didn't get left side tires. And I was just barely able to hang on to like 7th there, and I was holding up Ron and 2 other guys behind me, so I just let them on by. And so I was mired back in like 10th or 11th, and it was just so hard to pass. It just took me forever to be able to flip this race around. And there with like 10 laps to go or 8 laps to go, there was a caution, and I knew come down and get 4 tires. I knew that'd be the call. And it was sort of a split decision. I know Rodney there, he only had 2. I'm thankful for that. But yeah, caught some lucky breaks, restarted, with 8 to go, 10th once again. And I was 3 wide going into turn 1. McCarthy, thankfully he was in the middle there. He just checked up, gave me and Josh the lane. And then there was a couple guys that spun out in front of me. And then I found a familiar face in the 1 car of Jeremy Jeffries, and pushed him by, I think it was Denny Carroll and somebody else on the outside there coming to the caution, and restarted 4th and just got another great restart. And just, sometimes the cards fall your way, and I just it worked out for me this time.
Well, you certainly took advantage of the opportunities that they presented themselves, and now we know the answer to why we saw you drop back behind Ron earlier. We were wondering if you were trying to save fuel at that point to get on a 1-can strategy, because it was looking like we'd have a green flag run there to the finish at one point. So kudos to you again for, you say right place at the right time, but you have to have the racecraft to put yourself in the right place to capitalize at the right time, sir, and you did it again. So 2 wins in 2 weeks. So in good shape again, and I can tell you right now, you're sitting on top of the standings as we speak right now, and officially, no surprise.
Yeah, that's this is one of my favorite tracks. Obviously, I call it my home track. I'm from Indiana, about 2 to 3 hours south of here, and I love coming here. The key is little short shoots there between the corners. Just let that car get all the way out to the wall. Let the tires just have a chance to cool down. Straighten that wheel out. And just get that run off turn 4, man. That's where the money's made right there.
As
Yep.
Sean alluded to, you make the situations to be able to capitalize on with being in the right place at the right time, with the strategy and all that type of stuff. We've already documented the consistency out of this 88, and now the playoffs begin, and you're 2 for 2 in winning races. How nervous should the rest of the field be here, and should they be maybe eyeing this 88 Chevrolet in these last 3 weeks of this may be the car to beat for the championship?
To be honest, it kind of feels like deja vu a little bit. Last season, I kind of had a similar run. I know Sean remembers that.
I know I do.
Yeah, I won. I don't remember how many races, like the first 3 races of the chase, and I still came up second in the end. So, it's still anybody's game. This chase format makes it a lot of fun. The halfway points make it interesting, and nobody's out of it. We're going to reset for next week, and I got to get back up on the wheel again and keep the nose clean and out front.
Well, it's made it exciting for us to broadcast, especially with the stage points and the cutoffs. It just we're never at a shortage of things to talk about up here. But I'll add one more thing because I didn't get this out tonight. Looking back, you won here in a caution-free race in season 56. I don't know if you remember that one, but you mentioned your buddy Jeremy helping. And I look here, we were talking about the pole at the beginning of the race. Season 56, Jeremy, you outside front row. Season 60, Jeremy, you outside the front row. And here we are, season 62, or 65 rather, and victory lane again.
Yep, we'll certainly take it.
Well, Grant, congratulations on a tremendous start here in the playoffs, sweeping the first round of the postseason. As Sean alluded to, you're going into that round of 8 as the number 1 seed, and maybe go 3 in a row when we get to the Midwest at Iowa Speedway next Monday night. But for now, we'll give you the opportunity here for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shout-outs before we let you get back to your celebrating.
Yeah, just I heard Rodney's interview there. I just want to thank him for all the kind things he had to say, and he put on a good fight. I kind of wish he had 4 tires, and could have been more equal ground, but yeah. Congrats to him on a good run. I'd like to thank the owners here, David Cannon, Sean Prime, the admin, Sean Prime, Jeremy Jeffries, FRN, Seth, Sean, thanks for taking time out for us. We all appreciate it. My teammates with XFM, my friends and family for watching. I know my mom and dad's watching. They done sent me some texts, so congratulating me. So, hey, mom and dad, and thank my girlfriend, Brittany.
That's Grant Wesley, 2-time winner here in the playoffs. Sweeps the first round of the postseason, and he'll look to carry this momentum into the round of 8 starting next week at Iowa Speedway. Congratulations on a job well done. Go enjoy this victory, and we'll see you go back to work here next week.
Sounds like a plan.
Grant Wesley going to join
User was
the
moved out of your
multi-win
channel.
club that currently only had Nick Gunther and Jeremy Jeffries a part of it before we began this evening's festivities. And you alluded to those calculations now in as far as the playoffs are concerned, Sean. I mean, we mentioned it was going to come down to single points. Looks like 3 points was the difference in whether you were going to advance into the round of 8 or going to be the first one eliminated.
Indeed, you were. As we mentioned before, Grant Wesley will lead us to the next section, followed by Jeremy Jeffries in second, Jeff Supta in third. Not a lot of surprises there. Nick Gunther in fourth. Not a big surprise there. Brian Schilling survives to stay in fifth place. Here's the name that we didn't know the future of. Ron Hagelin's going to move and be in the 6th position going forward. Followed by 6 positions back, Josh Metallic has got himself back into the playoffs, and he'll be in the 7th position. And the final 8th cutoff position ends up going to Colin Flick, your challenger leader. Beat it by, as you mentioned, 3 positions over Dave Melson, first man out, then Denny Carroll.
Bob LaChance and Ronald Lucet, who are not in the field here tonight, they dropped to 11th and 12th, also eliminated. So they, along with Melson and Carroll, their road to the championship comes to an end here. I believe Hagelin capitalized on the LaChance no-show, and Metallic was able to garner enough points. Specifically, I think we could go back and document those 9 halfway stage points that he was able to get, was able to leapfrog him over Dave Melson, and then Colin Flick, as you documented, just barely able to hang on for that 8th and final playoff position heading into the next round. And Oh, by the way, it doesn't get any easier for these 8 drivers because we're going to go short track racing at Iowa next Monday night, and then it's the final road course stop of the season when we go to upstate New York at Watkins Glen to determine who the final 4 will be to compete for the championship. There is absolutely no let-up on this Cup schedule.
There is not. And I want to thank Jeremy Jeffries. I had hard luck in the end of this race again for working so hard to get the points updated for us to be able to get them in real time and out there. And yep, it's going to be exciting. We talked about Josh Metallic last week. We mentioned he had his troubles and was out of the race and fell out of that, top 8 position where we thought he had been solidly in, and coming into a track that Indy that we knew he favored. Now I've got another track that I mentioned next week, Iowa. That's another Josh Metallic type of track going on there. So he's good to be back in position there to give these guys a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, in the case of this first round, obviously 2 entirely different racetracks, entirely different configurations, track surface, banking, what have you, but they were both at least ovals. They were still speedways. With next week at Iowa, if you're a driver that's not all that comfortable at the road courses, I know that everyone's run Watkins Glen, but there are those that take to road courses better than others. If you're one of these 8 playoff drivers and you feel that you might be at a slight disadvantage to the rest of your competition when we eventually get to the road course, how much pressure, how much emphasis are you putting on next week's speedway race?
Oh, it's tough. I tell you, it does. Like I said, it doesn't get any easier. Seth, it sure doesn't. And you have to survive Iowa. You don't want to capitalize, but you've got to survive Iowa so that you can survive Watkins Glen. So I guess that's probably the first word is, I've got to try to do the best I can to have something to race for at Watkins Glen. Iowa can be a tale of 2 tracks. It can be that, crazy caution-free tire and fuel strategy, frustrating thing where you see guys going rocketing past the new tires, or it can be Dover all over again. It's a wild card for sure.
Well, we cannot wait to find out what's going to be the next page in this storybook season as we begin the round of 8 next week at the Iowa Speedway. That'll be next Monday night, green flag, and broadcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you guys will join us for that. 12 drivers began these playoffs. 8 drivers move on. In the round of 1, we're chasing Grant Wesley. Will that be the case here in the second round leading into the elimination race at Watkins Glen? We'll have to wait and find out. We appreciate everybody joining us here this evening for our coverage of Season 65 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Barebones Racing Series. For Sean Prime, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next Wednesday night in the Midwest at Iowa as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed